So one of the recommendations for when you start a vegetable garden is start small. It's always easier to make the garden larger as you need it, but when you start small, it makes maintenance a lot easier. So when you have a small garden, like a typical 4x8 raised bed, or maybe just a 10x10 plot in your backyard, you're going to find you quickly may be running out of space, because some of our vegetables do take up space. Some of our vine crops that may vine 3-4 feet, some of them may sprawl. So how can we get more produce out of our garden when we have small spaces? And one of the best ways to do that is to go up, do what we call vertical gardening. In other words, take advantage of the space up. Don't let things sprawl out. Vertical gardening is really simple. All it requires you to do is think ahead, think about how that plant grows. Is it a cucumber that vines out, which could be maybe trellised to go up some sort of fence or wire? Is it a tomato plant that maybe spreads 4, 5, 6 feet? Could it be caged? And there's other benefits for why we do vertical gardening. If we can get plants up off the ground, that gets them farther away from the cool, moist soil, which can decrease disease problems, because a lot of our diseases need moisture from the soil or spores from the soil to splash up on the leaves. So getting that plant higher up in the air lets it dry out quicker, which can also control diseases. It also makes monitoring or watching for insects easier too, because you're not having to stoop over, bend over as much, so kind of more at eye level. So how do we get those crops up? Well, there's several ways to do that. When it comes to tomatoes, we do what we call caging. So in other words, we get a circle of wire, maybe 18 inches, 2 foot in diameter, 4 to 5 feet tall, and then we train that tomato to grow up into the cage. You can also use fencing material, wire, woven wire you get at the hardware store. Those can be staked with a couple T-posts, and things like cucumbers or the pole beans behind me can be trained to grow up on those to save space. You know, you can also, if you get on the internet and look, there's all sorts of other cool little teepees you can make out of like different pieces of wood and string and things like that that grow up to give the garden more of an artistic look. So incorporate ways into your garden planning that uses not only the ground, but the space above, so you can have a more productive garden.